In a world where love has gone digital, where a swipe or a message can spark something that feels like destiny, millions search for connection every day. Across Africa, from the buzzing streets of Lagos and Johannesburg to the quiet towns of Accra and Nairobi, dating apps have become the new meeting ground. They promise excitement, hope, and companionship. But beneath the bright profiles and smiling photos lies a darker reality, one the public rarely sees until it's too late. Over the past decade, a wave of violence has swept through the continent's digital dating world. Victims, men and women alike, have vanished after chatting with strangers online. Some were robbed, some were kidnapped, others never came home at all. Their only mistake was trusting someone they met behind a glowing screen. The dark side of online dating killings peels back the facade of modern romance to reveal an invisible war waged through Wi-Fi and deception. It asks a question that grows more urgent every day. How safe is love when your first impression is a digital illusion? This is not just a story about murder, it's about how easily love can turn into fear, how desire can be exploited, and how every click, every match, every message can be a step closer to danger. Case 1. Honey Trap in Nairobi, the Campbell Scott case. In February 2025, news broke in Kenya that a foreign businessman who had vanished in Nairobi had been found dead under mysterious circumstances. His name was Campbell Scott, a 48-year-old British national who had flown to Kenya for a short work trip and was due to return home within the week. Instead, his name joined a growing list of victims of what locals have begun to call honey trap crimes, a chilling phenomenon where criminals use dating apps and social platforms to lure victims into deadly ambushes. When Campbell landed at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, everything appeared ordinary. He checked into a modest serviced apartment in the upscale Westlands area, a district known for its lively nightlife and proximity to the financial heart of Nairobi. Colleagues recall that he was relaxed, friendly, and eager to explore the city after long hours of meetings. What no one knew was that within 48 hours, he would disappear, and within a few days, his body would be discovered at the edge of a coffee plantation on the outskirts of Kiambu County. Police accounts later pieced together the fragments of his last movements. Investigators found that Campbell had been active on a popular dating app used in Kenya, one that allowed users to meet companions for drinks, dates, or casual friendship. Through digital forensics, detectives traced conversations between Campbell and a woman who had presented herself as a 24-year-old university student living nearby. Their messages were brief but friendly, small talk about Nairobi weather, a suggestion to meet for dinner, then an agreement on a Tuesday evening rendezvous at a quiet restaurant near Lavington. He never returned from that meeting. When Campbell failed to show up for his scheduled video conference the following morning, colleagues contacted his local office and then the British High Commission. His phone was unreachable, and the apartment showed no sign of struggle. His laptop and personal effects were untouched. CCTV footage from the building captured him leaving around 7 p.m., dressed casually, carrying only his phone and wallet. That was the last confirmed sighting alive. 3 days later, a farmer in Kiambu noticed a parked car partially concealed by vegetation at the edge of his property. Inside was the lifeless body of a man with bruising on his neck and wrists. Identification documents confirmed the worst. It was Campbell Scott. Forensic teams determined he had likely died the same night he disappeared. The car showed evidence of being driven by another person after his death, and investigators quickly ruled out an accident. It was a homicide. Kenyan media descended on the story, and within hours headlines filled the airwaves. British businessmen found dead in Kiambu honey trap plot. Dating app turns deadly. Police hunt for suspected online gang. Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, formed a special task team combining cybercrime, homicide, and organized crime units. Their early hypothesis was that Campbell had been targeted by a group already known for luring wealthy foreigners and professionals through dating apps, drugging them, and stealing their money. Similar patterns had appeared in several Nairobi investigations in 2024. Within a week, police made their first arrests. 3 suspects, 2 men and 1 woman, all in their 20s. The woman matched the online profile image used to contact Campbell. Officers recovered multiple mobile phones, SIM cards, and a small vial containing residues of a sedative. Interrogations revealed a chilling routine. According to investigators, the suspects used dating profiles with fake photographs, images of attractive young women, sourced from social media, to arrange meetings with men. During these encounters, they would slip drugs into drinks, rendering the victims unconscious. They then transferred funds using mobile money apps, emptied bank accounts, and abandoned the victims. In Campbell's case, police believe the dosage was excessive, causing respiratory arrest. The case struck a deep nerve in Kenyan society because it exposed the seamless fusion of digital technology and criminal enterprise. In interviews, cybercrime experts explained that Kenya's rapid adoption of online dating platforms, especially in urban centers like Nairobi and Mombasa, has outpaced public awareness of the risks. A 2024 report by the National Cybersecurity Center recorded a 27% increase in fraud and assault cases linked to dating or friendship apps. Behind each statistic lies a story like Campbell Scott's, someone seeking connection, walking unknowingly into a trap. What made Campbell's death even more alarming was that it followed a string of eerily similar incidents. In late 2024, police had warned of organized gangs nicknamed Nairobi Baddies operating in Kilimani and Parklands. Their method was almost identical: lure victims via Bumble, Tinder, or Telegram channels, meet at apartments rented for short periods, then drug and rob them. In some cases, victims survived and gave statements describing how quickly the sedatives took effect. Others were not so lucky. When investigators compared data, they realized Campbell's killers were likely part of the same expanding network. Friends and colleagues of Campbell Scott described him as cautious and experienced, someone unlikely to fall for a scam. That observation underscores how sophisticated these operations have become. The woman who contacted him used fluent English, polite conversation, and even referenced local landmarks convincingly. The trap was not a crude scam. It was designed to feel genuine, exploiting loneliness and curiosity rather than greed. By mid-March 2025, the three main suspects were charged with murder, robbery with violence, and misuse of digital communication systems. Court documents outlined the prosecution's theory that they acted with premeditation, having identified Campbell from public LinkedIn and Instagram posts that hinted at his travel schedule and professional status. They then crafted a dating app persona designed to appeal to his demographic profile, a friendly, educated Kenyan woman. Investigators called it target profiling through open-source intelligence, a method once reserved for cyber espionage but now used by petty criminals. The courtroom proceedings became a national spectacle. Reporters filled the gallery, bloggers live tweeted updates. For many Kenyans, it was the first time they saw the human face of a digital predator, young, ordinary, tech-savvy. The lead detective testified that the suspects had conducted over a dozen similar dates in previous months, often renting vehicles under aliases and using disposable SIM cards. The pattern suggested a structured criminal enterprise rather than spontaneous crime. Meanwhile, Campbell's family issued a public statement expressing gratitude to Kenyan investigators, but urging dating platforms to implement stronger safety measures. They described him as a gentle, curious man who believed in meeting people wherever he traveled. The quote appeared across newspapers, underlining the tragedy of modern connection turned fatal. Beyond the courtroom, Campbell Scott's case reshaped local discourse on digital safety. Kenyan advocacy groups began hosting workshops about the risks of online dating. The Communications Authority collaborated with police to develop awareness campaigns under the banner "Think Before You Link." Universities introduced modules on digital citizenship, and tech startups explored verification technologies to reduce fake profiles. Yet the undercurrent of fear persisted. Every few weeks, new reports surfaced of robberies or kidnappings linked to dating apps. Some victims were local, others foreign tourists. Taxi drivers whispered warnings to passengers leaving nightclubs. In WhatsApp groups, cautionary stories spread faster than official advisories. "Don't meet strangers alone," messages warned. "Tell someone where you're going. These people are dangerous." For Nairobi's residents, the story also forced uncomfortable reflection on class and vulnerability. Campbell's murder showed that wealth and foreign status could make someone a target, but it also mirrored the experiences of ordinary Kenyans caught in similar traps. Local papers highlighted cases of young professionals drugged in clubs after meeting partners through apps, or university students enticed by fake modeling opportunities. The lines between dating, fraud, and violence blurred into a single digital threatscape. In the aftermath, analysts traced the roots of such crimes to deeper socio-economic realities. High youth unemployment, rapid urbanization, and the glamour of online lifestyles have created fertile ground for cyber-enabled crime. Criminals study social media cues, what phones people use, which restaurants they visit to estimate affluence. Dating apps provide the bridge from observation to access. It's social engineering, one criminologist explained. The digital profile becomes the map to the victim's real life. By late 2025, Kenya's government had proposed amendments to its Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act to include harsher penalties for offenses committed through dating platforms. A draft policy on digital identity verification for social apps was under review. Activists welcomed these moves, but stressed that enforcement, not legislation, was the greater challenge. The technology evolves faster than our bureaucracy, noted one NGO leader. By the time we pass one law, criminals have migrated to a new platform. As the Campbell-Scott trial continued into the year's end, new testimony illuminated the precise timeline of his last hours. Investigators reconstructed the evening minute by minute, the drive from Westlands, the restaurant CCTV showing him meeting a woman in a red dress, the last phone ping from a cell tower near Kiambu Road. Witnesses recalled a second vehicle idling nearby, believed to be the accomplices waiting to strike. Such granular detail transformed the case from mystery to cautionary manual. For many Kenyans watching nightly news updates, the story's power lay in its ordinariness. It wasn't a tale of espionage or underground syndicates in far-off cities. It was about the same apps millions use daily: Tinder, Bumble, Badoo, Facebook dating, and the real possibility that a single wrong swipe could open a door to violence. Parents began warning their adult children. Friends began sharing live locations before dates. Conversations once confined to tech circles entered everyday life. The broader African context soon mirrored Kenya's experience. Reports from Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa detailed almost identical tactics, the use of dating apps to lure victims for robbery or murder. Kenyan investigators even shared data with Interpol after discovering similar user accounts active across multiple countries. The cross-border element confirmed that what killed Campbell-Scott was not an isolated event, but part of a continental trend. When sentencing finally arrived, the Nairobi High Court convicted the principal defendant of murder and robbery with violence, handing down a life sentence. The remaining two were found guilty of accessory offenses. In a stern statement, the judge emphasized that technology cannot conceal intent, declaring the crimes a violation of human trust, amplified by digital tools. Outside the courthouse, supporters of the victim's family held placards reading, "Justice for Campbell-Scott, Stop Dating App Killers." Case 2, Starlet Wahoo, a socialite's date that ended in murder. When 26-year-old Starlet Wahoo Mwangi checked into an Airbnb apartment in Nairobi's South B district on the night of January 3, 2024, it was supposed to be another glamorous evening in a life built around beauty, confidence, and social media fame. Starlet was a rising influencer fashion model, content creator, and occasional event host, followed by thousands of young Kenyans who admired her energy and open personality. She posted selfies from stylish cafes, gym clips, and motivational captions about independence and self-worth. Her name was known in Nairobi's nightlife circuit, and her online presence painted the image of a woman who had everything under control. What none of her followers knew was that behind the bright Instagram filters, Starlet had agreed to meet a man she'd recently connected with online. That meeting would be her last. 2 days later, her body was found on the floor of that same apartment, half covered by a white sheet, her throat slit, blood pooling beneath her. The scene was gruesome. A knife lay nearby. Broken glass suggested a violent struggle. On the wall, faint handprints marked a desperate attempt to fight back. The police officers who responded to the call described it as one of the most disturbing crime scenes they had ever encountered. The suspect, Jeff Mwathi Ombati Mungai, a 33-year-old man with a previous criminal record, had already fled. Within hours, his photograph circulated across the nation as a wanted man. But he wouldn't get far. According to police reports, Starlet and the suspect had met through a dating platform commonly used in Nairobi's social circles. He presented himself as a wealthy businessman dealing in real estate and cryptocurrency, projecting success and confidence. Over weeks of chatting, he gained her trust, promising partnership opportunities and an exclusive dinner to discuss collaborations. He booked a short-stay apartment for the meeting and reportedly offered to cook dinner himself. For Starlet, who had long blended professional modeling gigs with influencer partnerships, such propositions weren't unusual. Many of her business deals began as casual social invitations. To friends, she mentioned the dinner but downplayed any romantic expectations. She sent a text to a friend at around 8 p.m. saying, "He seems okay, hope he's not boring." That was the last message she would ever send. When Starlet's family couldn't reach her the next morning, concern turned into panic. Her sister, Michelle Wahoo, tried calling repeatedly, no answer. By afternoon, family members contacted police, using location data from her phone to trace her to the South B apartment. When officers broke open the door, the smell of blood was immediate. Starlet lay motionless on the floor, still dressed in the same outfit seen in an Instagram story she'd posted earlier that night: a white top, denim shorts, gold earrings. Detectives found the apartment registered under the suspect's name. Bloodstains trailed toward the kitchen sink, where attempts had been made to wash the knife. CCTV footage from the apartment block captured both Starlet and the man entering the premises together, but only one leaving. At around 3 a.m., the suspect was seen carrying a small backpack and heading to the parking lot alone. Within 48 hours, he was arrested in Ruiru, roughly 20 kilometers from Nairobi, after police tracked his phone's IMEI number and mobile money activity. In custody, he initially denied involvement, claiming Starlet had left alive. Forensic evidence soon destroyed that lie. His fingerprints were on the murder weapon, and traces of Starlet's blood were found on his clothing. The killing of Starlet Wahoo triggered a wave of national outrage. She wasn't just another name in the crime pages. She was a familiar face, a digital influencer whose posts about self-care and female empowerment had touched many. Across social media, hashtags like Justice for Starlet Wahoo and Stop Online Predators trended for days. Women began sharing their own chilling encounters with men they'd met through apps. Some recalled being drugged, others barely escaped robbery or assault. The pattern was impossible to ignore. Kenya was facing a dangerous rise in online dating-linked crimes. In March 2024, formal charges of murder, assault, and misuse of digital communication systems were filed. During preliminary hearings, prosecutors painted a portrait of a manipulative man who hunted women online. They presented forensic evidence, DNA, fingerprints, and mobile money transfers linking the suspect to the scene. Digital experts showed the court how he had deleted chats and attempted to reset his phone before arrest. Starlet's sister Michelle became an outspoken advocate for stricter cybercrime enforcement. She collaborated with women's organizations to campaign for a new bill that would hold online platforms accountable for failing to act on reports of fake profiles or harassment. "We can't stop people from dating," she said at a press conference, "but we can demand they're not walking into death traps." While Starlet's murder was uniquely high profile, it was far from isolated. Kenyan police statistics from 2024 showed an increase in assault and robbery cases linked to online meetups, particularly in urban centers like Nairobi, Nakuru, and Mombasa. Experts called it the convergence of urban loneliness, digital anonymity, and economic desperation. Young men, unable to sustain the flashy lifestyles portrayed online, turned to crime to fund them. Women, eager for connection or opportunity, often ignored warning signs. The digital screen became both meeting ground and murder weapon. By early 2025, after months of hearings, the High Court delivered its judgment. The suspect was found guilty of murder. The judge described the act as an execution masquerading as a date and sentenced him to life imprisonment. In her closing statement, the judge lamented how technology had turned intimacy into vulnerability, warning that the screen between us does not soften the intent of evil. Case 3. Olorado Mongol. A date, a kidnap, a national outcry. Olorado Mongol was 26, bright, outspoken, and full of promise. She worked in the communications and media space, often reporting on human interest stories that explored the challenges faced by women in South Africa. Her friends describe her as fearless, someone who believed that women could shape their destinies in a world that often tried to silence them. But destiny has a cruel sense of irony. The kind of story she once might have reported on would become her own. In May 2025, Olorado's family reported her missing. She had told friends she was meeting someone she'd been chatting with online, a man she had met through a dating app. It wasn't unusual for her. Like many modern professionals, she juggled a busy life and found online platforms an easier way to meet people. But this meeting would be her last. Days later, her body was found mutilated, dumped in an open field near Mahikeng. The discovery sent shockwaves across social media. The hashtag Justice for Olorado began trending within hours, sparking outrage across South Africa. The details that followed were grim. She had been kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered, allegedly by the same man she met through the app. What began as a date had turned into a calculated abduction. Police investigators from the Northwest Province pieced together her final moments using digital forensics phone pings, text trails, and security footage. What emerged was a disturbing picture of a pattern of predation. The suspect, later arrested, had reportedly used multiple fake profiles on dating apps to lure women. His method was chillingly deliberate. Charm his targets online, earn their trust, arrange an in-person meeting, and once they were isolated, strike. Olorado's death was not random. It was a symptom of a spreading phenomenon, criminals using digital intimacy to identify, manipulate, and trap victims. Her story was particularly horrifying because of what she represented: the educated, cautious, socially aware woman who did everything right and still became prey. At her funeral, her colleagues and fellow journalists wept openly. Many had covered crime stories before, but few imagined they would stand at the grave of one of their own, lost to the same violence they had spent their careers documenting. Her mother's voice broke during her tribute. She spoke of a daughter who dreamed of changing lives with her words, but whose own life was cut short by someone hiding behind a phone screen. Police officials, speaking to the media, confirmed that her killer had been connected to other unsolved cases involving missing women. They warned that dating apps have become the new hunting ground for predators. That statement, repeated across news networks, captured the growing fear of a digital world that had turned lethal. Olorado's story exposed how these predators exploit vulnerabilities created by trust and technology. In a society where many people crave connection, loneliness becomes a weapon. Criminals know how to say the right things. They use empathy, compliments, and patience as tools to disarm their victims. They learn routines, extract details, and when the timing is right, they act. The man accused of killing Olorado reportedly used her phone after her death, pretending to be her, replying to messages from friends and family, buying himself time before dumping her body. This act, investigators said, showed a cold level of calculation. It wasn't a spontaneous crime. It was premeditated deception wrapped in the language of love. South Africa's gender-based violence epidemic is among the worst in the world. Every day, women vanish, often lured by someone they met online. The country's police service has repeatedly warned of syndicates that use dating apps for criminal purposes, from kidnapping and extortion to murder. But as technology advances faster than regulation, catching these predators becomes increasingly difficult. Olorado's murder reignited calls for stricter digital safety campaigns. NGOs and women's rights activists demanded that dating platforms operating in South Africa should take more responsibility, verify users, provide emergency alert options, and collaborate more closely with law enforcement. But beyond policy, there was an emotional reckoning. Women across the country began sharing their own near-miss experiences. Men who turned aggressive on first meetings, requests for isolated locations, fake occupations, and sudden disappearances after money transfers. Each story echoed the same fear that anyone could be next. One survivor's story, shared anonymously during a memorial event for Olorado, revealed how she too had narrowly escaped a trap. She had matched with a man on a dating app who seemed charming. When she met him, he tried to force her into his car, but she screamed and drew attention, causing him to flee. Her words captured the shared anxiety of South African women navigating digital dating. It's like we're gambling with our lives for the hope of love. For Olerato Mangal, the gamble ended in tragedy, but her case also forced a national awakening. Journalists began to compile reports of other women missing after online encounters connecting dots that had gone unnoticed. What emerged was an unsettling pattern: similar methods, similar messaging, similar endings. The police eventually made progress. The primary suspect was arrested after being tracked through his phone activity and linked bank accounts. When confronted, he confessed to meeting Olerato, but denied the murder, claiming it was just a date that went wrong. But digital evidence painted a different picture. Multiple fake dating profiles, conversations with other women, and a disturbing trail of deleted messages suggested a repeat offender hiding behind charm and technology. In death, Olerato became a symbol of resistance. Her colleagues launched an investigative series exploring the dark side of online dating in South Africa, amplifying the message she herself would have pursued as a journalist. Radio shows, newspapers, and television programs carried her name, making her story impossible to ignore. Her legacy also lived on through activism. University students organized self-defense and digital safety workshops in her name. Law enforcement agencies began partnering with social media influencers to raise awareness about safe online dating. For a brief moment, the country united under one shared realization: the danger isn't just in dark alleys anymore. It's on our phones, in our messages, in the comfort of our homes. Still, for her family, justice could never replace what they lost. Her father, in a public statement, said she wanted to tell people's stories. Now her story must teach people to be careful. His words carried the weight of both grief and warning. The case of Olerato Mangal serves as a mirror, reflecting how modern technology meant to connect us can be twisted into a weapon by those who know how to exploit trust. It's a story of love poisoned by deceit, of hope turned into fear, of how a single click can destroy a life. Olerato didn't die because she was careless. She died because someone decided her trust was an opportunity. Her death is a painful reminder that behind the smiling faces on dating apps, behind every goodnight text or promise of affection, there can be monsters who understand human psychology better than conscience. And though her murderer sits behind bars awaiting trial, the crime continues in different cities, with different faces, and the same silent pattern repeating itself. Olerato's story should have ended with a new beginning, a promotion, maybe a marriage, perhaps a new assignment covering another part of the country. Instead, it became a case file marked closed, her name added to the long list of South African women lost to digital age predators. Yet, her voice lives on through the movement she inspired. In South Africa today, when journalists talk about the dangers of online dating, they no longer speak in hypotheticals. They speak of Olerato Mangal, a woman who went looking for love and found the face of evil. Her story reminds us all that while technology evolves, human cruelty does too. And for as long as predators hide behind screens, every message, every meeting, and every promise of love carries a shadow. Case 4. Tinder, bait and a robbery ring. South Africa's date attacks. South Africa's cities are places of contrast, shining high-rises and gated suburbs, standing beside sprawling settlements where opportunity and danger coexist. In this landscape of beauty and unease, technology has become both a connector and a weapon. And no app illustrates this duality better than the one meant to bring people together: Tinder. What was once a platform for dating and friendship has, in recent years, become the entry point for a frightening pattern of targeted robberies and murders. Police records and testimonies reveal that criminals now use dating apps as bait, luring unsuspecting victims into carefully planned traps. In Johannesburg, Pretoria, Durban, and Cape Town, cases of this nature have multiplied enough for police to give the phenomenon a name: Tinder robberies. The story often starts the same way. A young man or woman swipes right, begins a conversation, and within hours or days, there's chemistry, flirty messages, promises of meeting soon, and sometimes photos exchanged. It feels real. But behind the profile is not a potential lover. It's a criminal network that already knows where you live, what you drive, and what they can take. In 2022, Johannesburg police arrested a group of men accused of running an organized Tinder robbery syndicate. Their operation was simple but devastating. Using fake female profiles with stolen photos, they arranged dates with men in upscale areas, Sandton, Fourways, Randburg. The victims were told to pick the woman up or meet her at a specific location. When they arrived, the woman would vanish, replaced by armed men waiting to ambush. Cars were hijacked, wallets emptied, bank transfers forced at gunpoint. In one case reported in the Sunday Times, a 42-year-old businessman agreed to meet a woman who claimed to be a university student. When he arrived, two armed men forced him into his car, drove him to an ATM, and made him withdraw over R20,000 before leaving him tied and blindfolded on a dirt road outside Soweto. He survived, but his sense of security never did. Police said the gang behind his attack had targeted at least 7 men before they were caught. But even with arrests, similar cases continued to surface across the country. By 2023, a new wave of reports emerged, this time involving women as victims too. In Pretoria, a 28-year-old woman was kidnapped after meeting a man she'd spoken to for 2 weeks online. He appeared kind and articulate, claiming to work in IT. When she agreed to meet him at a quiet cafe, he convinced her to drive him home first. That home turned out to be an abandoned property where 3 accomplices waited. They robbed her of everything, including her car. She was lucky to escape alive. South African Police Service, SAS officials, have called this an evolving digital crime, warning that syndicates now use social media and dating apps interchangeably. In some cases, criminals move victims between platforms, starting conversations on Tinder, then switching to WhatsApp or Telegram to avoid app tracking. Once communication leaves the app, victims have little protection. Captain K. Makubele, speaking to the press, summarized it bluntly. They pretend to love you, but they're hunting you. These operations are not random crimes. They're structured with hierarchy and planning. Investigations have shown that the same groups behind online dating robberies are also linked to ATM fraud, vehicle hijacking, and identity theft. They study digital footprints, cross-referencing Facebook profiles, Instagram check-ins, and LinkedIn posts to identify targets with visible wealth or assets. Johannesburg's cybercrime units have traced dozens of such attacks to syndicates operating from informal settlements around Gauteng. Their members often include former convicts, tech-savvy scammers, and even women recruited to play the bait. The female profiles on Tinder are often controlled by men using stolen images from influencers or models abroad. When the victim asks for a voice call, they decline. When he asks for a video call, they stall. It doesn't matter. Loneliness fills the silence, and curiosity overrides suspicion. Some victims never live to tell their story. In early 2024, the body of a man from the East Rand was found in an open field after being missing for 2 days. His last known contact was a Tinder match. Police later confirmed his car had been sold for parts in Soweto and his phone wiped clean. That same month, 2 students from the University of Johannesburg were attacked under similar circumstances, both lured to dates that turned into assaults and robberies. Despite repeated warnings, the problem has persisted because technology gives criminals anonymity. Anyone can create a fake profile with a new SIM card and a free email address. By the time authorities trace one account, the syndicate has already moved to another. It's a game of digital hide-and-seek with deadly consequences. Experts in digital forensics have compared these syndicates to old-fashioned highway robbers, except now the highway is online. Instead of waiting by the roadside, they wait in your chat box. Instead of guns at first sight, they use affection, humor, and attention until the moment they strike. The emotional impact of these crimes is as severe as the financial one. Victims describe feelings of shame, guilt, and disbelief. Some lose trust in all digital relationships, isolating themselves completely. Others spiral into depression, haunted by how easily they were manipulated. One survivor, interviewed anonymously by News 24, recalled how she ignored her instincts because the man seemed too polite to be dangerous. He called her queen, texted her every morning, and sent voice notes that sounded gentle. But when she arrived at his meeting spot, she was dragged into a car and robbed of everything. I felt like my brain had been hacked, she said. He made me believe I was special. Her words reflect the psychological precision behind these attacks. Criminals study what people want: attention, validation, companionship, and weaponize it. The heart becomes the easiest password to crack. Law enforcement has adapted, but slowly. The SAP's cybercrime unit now collaborates with major dating platforms to track suspicious accounts. Awareness campaigns on local radio stations warn users not to share private information, bank details, or home addresses. But in a country battling unemployment and inequality, the lure of fast money keeps drawing more young men into digital crime. By 2025, reports of dating app-linked robberies and murders had reached dozens of cases per province. Some syndicates began branching into extortion, threatening to release private photos or messages if victims refused to pay. For others, robbery remained the primary goal. And for a few, the violence escalated into homicide when victims resisted. Security analysts say what makes South Africa particularly vulnerable is its combination of high smartphone penetration and high crime rates. Nearly everyone has access to the internet, but few have strong digital literacy. Scammers exploit this gap mercilessly. Communities have begun taking matters into their own hands. Neighborhood watch groups now track suspicious online profiles. In Johannesburg's northern suburbs, residents use WhatsApp groups to warn each other of potential dating scams. But for every exposed fake profile, 10 new ones appear. The digital battlefield keeps expanding. The story of South Africa's Tinder robberies isn't about technology failing, it's about human greed adapting. The apps themselves were designed for connection, not deception. Yet, in the wrong hands, they've become tools for ambush. What was supposed to help people find love now helps criminals find victims. The government's response has been mixed. Some officials advocate for stricter SIM registration laws and better cooperation with tech companies. Others argue that the burden lies on users to stay cautious. But critics say this misses the point. Safety shouldn't depend on who's more careful. It should depend on who's more protected. For those who have lost loved ones, policy debates mean little. What matters is that a son, a daughter, or a friend went out to meet someone they thought was kind and never came home. The victims aren't careless. They're human. They want to believe in connection. And that belief, in a country hungry for hope, becomes the easiest thing to exploit. Today, South Africa's dating landscape carries an unspoken warning. People still swipe, still chat, still meet, but they also glance over their shoulders, share live locations with friends, and leave digital breadcrumbs just in case. The pursuit of love has become an act of calculated risk. In townships, taxi ranks, and office corridors, stories circulate like cautionary tales. Don't go alone. Make sure it's a public place. If they refuse a video call, don't go. Advice that once sounded paranoid now sounds like survival. The Tinder bait robberies have exposed more than criminal ingenuity. They've revealed a deeper truth about the digital age. Connection is no longer innocent. Every swipe is a leap of faith. And in a society already scarred by violence and inequality, the promise of love can sometimes lead straight into the hands of those who see affection not as emotion, but as opportunity. These crimes continue, often underreported, sometimes forgotten. But for the survivors and for the families of those who didn't make it back, every notification, every message from a stranger is now a reminder of the danger that hides behind the screen. South Africa's digital age has made love accessible to millions, but it has also made predators invisible. And in the end, what happens on that first date can mean the difference between romance and ruin, between affection and annihilation, between a heartbeat and a headline. Case 5 Limpopo arrests a Tinder predator busted. The small towns of Limpopo are known for their quiet rhythm places where people know one another, where gossip travels faster than the wind. But in 2023, something far more sinister than small-town chatter began spreading through the province, a wave of disappearances, all with one strange link: dating apps. At first, police thought the incidents were isolated. A man from Polokwane reported missing after meeting a woman he'd connected with online. Then, a university student from Thohoyandou vanished after telling her friends she was finally going to meet that guy from Tinder. Another young woman was found dead near the R81 highway, her phone wiped, her last messages exchanged with an account simply named J. Each case alone was tragic. Together, they formed a pattern, one that would soon lead investigators into the web of a ruthless predator. The man at the center of it all was Justice Mulaudzi, a 33-year-old former security guard with a deceptively calm demeanor. Neighbors described him as polite but withdrawn, a man who kept mostly to himself. Few knew that behind that quiet face lay one of Limpopo's most cunning criminals, someone who used the promise of love as bait for robbery, assault, and murder. Mulaudzi's method was simple yet terrifyingly effective. He created multiple profiles on dating apps like Tinder, Badoo, and Facebook Dating, using different photos, some stolen, others filtered to disguise his real identity. On Tinder, he was Jaden. On Badoo, Prince. On Facebook, Jabu. Each persona had a carefully crafted story: a young entrepreneur, a churchgoer, a loving single father. He spoke with charm and empathy, often telling women he was looking for something serious. He knew exactly what to say. He'd spend weeks chatting with his targets, building trust through voice notes and video calls that revealed only partial glimpses of his face. Once convinced he wasn't a threat, his victims would agree to meet, usually in secluded areas, under the pretext of a quiet picnic, a private dinner, or a road trip. It was during these meetings that Mulaudzi struck. According to the South African Police Service, SIS investigation report, his crimes followed a chillingly consistent pattern. The victims were usually between 20 and 35 years old, educated, independent, often living alone. He'd ask them to pick him up, claiming his car was in for repairs. Once they were on the road, he'd lead them toward an isolated location, often a bushy area outside town. There, the encounters turned violent. Some victims were robbed and released, others were assaulted and left unconscious. A few, tragically, never returned. The first major break came in late 2023, when a 26-year-old nurse from Guyana escaped after being attacked. She had met Jaden on Tinder 2 weeks earlier. After a few romantic exchanges, he convinced her to drive to what he called his cousin's place in Makado. Along the way, he asked her to stop on a deserted stretch of road so he could make a quick call. That's when he pulled a knife. She fought back, managing to bite his hand and break free. Bloodied but alive, she ran barefoot toward the highway, flagging down a truck driver who took her to a nearby police station. Her description of his face, voice, and car registration number became the first real lead investigators had in months. Within days, ASAPs traced the registration to a second-hand vehicle linked to Justice Mulaudzi. Surveillance footage from an ATM in Polokwane showed him withdrawing cash using a card belonging to another missing woman. Investigators also recovered multiple SIM cards, each registered under false names, along with several phones containing hundreds of dating app chats. What shocked the police most wasn't just the evidence, it was the level of organization. Mulaudzi had kept detailed notes of his victims, including screenshots of their conversations, personal details, and even lists of what he had taken from them: handbags, jewelry, phones, and in some cases, cars. As detectives dug deeper, a darker picture emerged. Mulaudzi wasn't acting alone. Behind him was a small network, 2 men and 1 woman, who helped launder stolen goods and manage fake social media profiles. The woman, later identified as Fofi Netshisalu, was a crucial part of the operation. She posed as one of the fake profile's friends, sometimes messaging victims herself to make the stories more believable. When police arrested her, she confessed that she and Mulaudzi had met while working at a supermarket. He said it was easy money, she told investigators. He said people are too trusting online. Over the next few weeks, forensic analysis linked Mulaudzi to at least 5 deaths across Limpopo and Gauteng between 2022 and 2024. In most cases, the pattern was identical: contact through a dating app, private meeting, disappearance. The victims were from diverse backgrounds: a university lecturer, a small business owner, a domestic worker, a student, and a healthcare assistant. Their stories never made national headlines, overshadowed by urban crimes and political drama. But in their communities, their disappearances tore families apart. Mothers waited by the phone, fathers searched police stations, friends shared missing person posters that faded with time. When police finally arrested Mulaudzi in January 2024, it happened almost by chance. He was caught during a routine roadblock outside Sanin, driving a stolen car belonging to one of his victims. Officers found a blood-stained knife, women's handbags, and multiple cell phones in the trunk. His calmness stunned them. He didn't resist, didn't argue. He simply said, "You've been looking for me, haven't you?" His arrest sent ripples through Limpopo. For months, the province had been haunted by rumors of a Tinder killer, a phantom who preyed on lonely hearts. Now the face behind the legend had a name. During interrogation, Mulaudzi initially denied everything, but confronted with forensic evidence, fingerprints, phone records, and witness testimony, he broke. In a chilling confession, he admitted to targeting lonely women because they were easy to convince. He claimed he didn't plan to kill at first, but that some fights got out of hand. He also revealed that he had studied other dating-related crimes online, learning how to hide digital traces. The trial that followed became one of Limpopo's most closely watched court cases. Families of the victims filled the gallery, clutching photos of daughters and sisters. Reporters described the atmosphere as tense, a mixture of grief, anger, and disbelief. When the judge read the charges, 5 counts of murder, 7 of robbery with aggravating circumstances, and multiple counts of fraud and identity theft, Mulaudzi sat motionless. No remorse, no reaction. Prosecutors painted a chilling portrait of a manipulative predator who weaponized technology for violence. They presented screenshots of Tinder conversations where he charmed victims, promising them a forever kind of love. They showed bank withdrawals made minutes after each victim's last text. They revealed how he used GPS data to find isolated meeting spots and how he cleaned his phones using software designed to erase forensic data. The evidence was overwhelming. By June 2024, the Limpopo High Court found Justice Mulaudzi guilty on all charges. The judge described his crimes as a calculated betrayal of human trust. He was sentenced to 5 life terms plus 75 years, effectively ensuring he would never walk free again. For the families, the sentence brought closure, but not peace. One mother told reporters outside court, "He didn't just kill my daughter, he killed my faith in people." Another said, "Dating apps should come with warnings like cigarettes, because one wrong swipe can destroy your life." Police praised the courage of the nurse who escaped, calling her the reason others will live. Her testimony had broken the case open. In interviews, she said she still suffers nightmares. Sometimes, she confessed, "I dream I'm still in that car and I can't get out." But she also said she wanted her story told so others would recognize the danger she didn't. The Mulaudzi case became a turning point for law enforcement. SAPS launched a campaign called Think Before You Swipe, urging people to verify online identities, meet only in public spaces, and inform friends before going on dates. The campaign gained traction across South Africa, especially among university students. But experts warn that while Mulaudzi is behind bars, others like him are still out there. The methods evolve, the names change, the faces shift, but the pattern remains the same. In Limpopo, his arrest didn't end the fear. New reports emerged of copycat scams, young men impersonating soldiers, engineers, even pastors, to lure victims. Some claim to have been inspired by Mulaudzi's success. The irony is bitter. One predator's exposure may have inspired others. Still, for the families who lost loved ones, there is some comfort in knowing that one face of evil has been unmasked. They visit the graves, light candles, and speak their names, refusing to let them fade into statistics. In Thohoyandou, the university where one of his victims once studied, a memorial bench now bears her name. Students pass by it daily, some unaware of the story, others whispering about the Tinder man. It stands as a quiet reminder of how modern love can turn deadly. The case of Justice Mulaudzi is more than a story about a killer. It's a story about how trust, the most human of instincts, has become the most dangerous currency in the digital age. It's a warning that predators no longer need to stalk the streets. They can now sit behind a screen, smiling through a filter, waiting for someone to believe. In Limpopo's court records, his crimes are filed under fraud, robbery, and murder. But for those who lived through it, it was something far worse, a betrayal that turned love itself into a weapon. And so, the people of Limpopo swipe a little more carefully now. They double-check, cross-verify, and share their locations. The landscape of romance has changed, scarred but awake. Because in the quiet towns of South Africa, where whispers of danger travel faster than the wind, everyone now knows one thing for certain. The most dangerous place you can meet a stranger might just be your phone. Case 6. Murder in Lagos, the Badu cult's online seductions. In one case, a 26-year-old oil company employee from Port Harcourt connected via Badu to a woman calling herself Loretta Odekagbo. According to court records, the man believed he was in a consensual relationship. He visited her, they spent time together. Then late one night, he was ambushed by accomplices she had smuggled into his home. He was tied, robbed of his ATM card and money. Later, his body was found with signs of strangulation. The victim had discovered later that Loretta had learned he was married, broke promises of a car, and orchestrated the ambush. This was no spontaneous affair. This was calculated betrayal. But the Badu cult's violence went beyond one victim. A report in 2017 uncovered that at least 26 residents of Ikorodu, Lagos State, had been killed in 15 attacks by a group identifying itself as Badu. These attacks reportedly spanned June 2016 to June 2017, many involving lures through the dating app or similar social media contact. One police officer reflected that for every victim reported, dozens of others who were attacked but ashamed or unnoticed never made it into public records. The modus operandi of this sinister network was disturbingly consistent. Investigative sources describe how the criminals would craft a female persona on Badu: attractive photos, cheerful personality, flirtatious messages. They would engage the target in conversation, building trust, sometimes over weeks. Once the victim agreed to a meeting, the woman would direct them to a location or invite them to her residence. At that moment, the honeypot turned into a trap. The victim arrived, the profile disappeared or revealed accomplices, and the victim found himself at the mercy of robbers, kidnappers, or ritualists. A notorious case in Ogun State, adjacent to Lagos, illustrates the horror. Two lovers who met via Badu were found dead in their apartment in Ojodu Burger, Ifo LGA. The female victim was pregnant at the time. Their skulls had been smashed, the window net torn. Residents said they didn't hear any noise until daylight. The police investigation referenced the Badu cult as the perpetrators. In interviews, local residents speculated the victims had trusted a profile they met online, then were attacked when circumstances allowed. Such stories forced Nigerian authorities to confront a new breed of crime: digital-enabled violence. In 2018, the Lagos State Police Command paraded suspects who claimed to be members of Badu. One young man, 18 years old, said he had joined after being promised work, but ended up in a gang that hypnotized victims and smashed their heads while asleep. The language used in the police briefing was chilling: hypnosis, ritual killing, dating sites turn, warning. Experts analyzing the phenomenon pointed to the unique vulnerabilities present in Nigeria's dating app ecosystem. On one side, high smartphone penetration, a young population, and social media-savvy users create fertile ground for online dating. On the other side, gaps in regulation, weak verification of identities on apps, and the culture of secrecy around romance and money make victims more exposed. One article in The Punch, titled "Dark Side of Dating Apps: How Criminals Lure Victims Using Attractive Online Profiles," described how fraudsters easily switch from Tinder to Badu or Telegram as the victim transitions, making tracing harder. In the Lagos case files, investigators found alarming digital traces: SIM cards registered under false names, phone numbers linked to multiple chat profiles, as well as ATM withdrawals and mobile money transfers within minutes of the meeting. One victim reported that soon after meeting the woman, he was induced to withdraw money or reveal his PIN under pressure. The line between romantic date and digital robbery blurred. In many cases, the victims never imagined they were targets. One female survivor, who spoke anonymously to the press, recalled how a man she met via an app invited her to his flat, encouraged her to drink, then demanded her phone access and asked her to transfer funds. She escaped only because she persuaded the man to wait outside for a delivery, then fled through the fire exit. Her words reflect a common thread. The victims were tricked into believing the scenario was normal. The criminals relied on the veneer of dating to lower suspicion. For the victims of the Badu cult, the physical violence ranged from assault to murder. Decomposed bodies were found in pipelines, bushy areas, abandoned sites. One such case in Rivers State involved 2 victims whose bodies were discovered near an abandoned Shell pipeline borrow pit after being lured through Badoo and kidnapped. The suspect confessed that the original plan was robbery, but he did not know Mr. Shola would not escape and admitted the victims died. The human toll is immense. Families of victims speak not only of loss but of betrayal of something as human as trust. Many victims had told someone they were meeting a date and it seemed ordinary. Some did not report the crime out of shame. Others blamed themselves. Criminals relied on that silence. In Lagos especially, the policing challenged several constraints. Detectives noted that victims sometimes traveled from other states, or even foreigners came for short business trips, making coordination between jurisdictions difficult. The anonymity of online profiles compounded the problem. Criminals could erase chats, reset phones, register new SIM cards after each crime. The evidence trail was labyrinthine. In 2017, one report noted that the gang in Ikorodu had hideouts, black spots, where victims were brought and killed. Responding to the crisis, Nigerian law enforcement agencies began issuing public warnings. The Nigeria Police Force's public relations officer urged caution. In a digital age where connections and relationships are often forged through digital platforms, we are increasingly aware of the importance of discretion and vigilance in our virtual interactions. He pleaded with users not to assume dating platform safety and to report suspicious behavior early. But technology alone couldn't erase the threat. The cultural norms around not telling someone you're going on a date, or not sharing the meeting location, or feeling foolish if something goes wrong, all contributed to vulnerability. Investigators emphasized that the criminals designed their trap knowing exactly which social norms to exploit. For the Bedu cult, the generational impact is still emerging. In Lagos suburbs, communities began posting leaflets. Met online? Meet in public. Tell someone where you are. Universities introduced digital safety talks. Child protection agencies extended the warnings to younger users, noting that high school students were increasingly using dating apps. The lesson: romance apps are not risk-free. The trials of gang members brought a mix of solace and frustration for families. Some suspects received long-term jail sentences, but many more await prosecution. One legal scholar noted, app-based predation is plural, trans-state, and evolving. The law tries to chase it, but crime migrates. In Nigeria's high-crime cities, the digital frontier has become the new hunting ground. For survivors and the families of the dead, there are everyday scars. The woman who fled the robbery carries panic whenever her phone rings from an unknown number. The mother of those killed in Ikorodu won't open dating app notifications, dismissing them as potential danger. In the quiet moments, they recall not just lives lost, but the betrayal of expectation that the screen promising pleasure delivered peril. The Badoo cult case is a grim reflection of how online dating can malfunction, how tools of connection become instruments of violence. It is also a reminder that in the digital age, trust is no longer innocent, and the price of a wrong match can be more than heartbreak. And Lagos, with its buzzing nightlife and mobile device culture, is no stranger to this duality. In dinner-lit rooftop bars and neon-lit clubs, by morning one person may be celebrating a new connection and another lying dead because a viewer-friendly profile hid a predator's plan. The story of the Badoo cult is not just one of murder and robbery. It's a story of digital isolation, of romance weaponized, of the interface between modernity and menace. It is a warning, loud and unignorable, whispered in the shadows of Lagos's skyline. When love begins with a swipe, make sure you're not also rolling the dice. Case 7 dating sites used to rob and kill, Nigeria's new breed of predators. By the early 2020s, police across Nigeria began noticing a disturbing pattern. Victims, men and women, young and middle-aged, would vanish after meeting people they had chatted with online. Their phones would go dead. Days later, bodies were discovered in hotels, bushy areas, or by highways. Bank accounts emptied, cars missing. The line between romance and robbery had blurred completely. This is the story of Nigeria's new breed of predators, men and women who use dating apps and social media platforms not to find love, but to hunt. To understand this wave of killings, Investigators point to a mutation of the long-standing internet fraud culture, known as Yahoo Yahoo, a term for online scam artists. Around 2016, a darker variant began spreading, Yahoo Plus. These weren't just scammers, they combined digital fraud with ritualistic killings, believing blood sacrifices could empower their scams. Police files and court testimonies from Edo, Delta, and Ogun states reveal that some of these young men used dating platforms to lure victims for both robbery and ritual purposes. In one widely reported case from 2021, a 21-year-old student in Oyo State confessed to killing a woman he met on Facebook after his ritual mentor told him human sacrifice would make his business move faster. It was a horrifying escalation romance turned into superstition, desire into death. Perhaps no case shook Nigeria's conscience more than that of Inubong Umoran, a 26-year-old graduate who, in 2021, went online seeking employment through Facebook. Instead of finding work, she met her killer. The man who lured her, Uduak Akpan, promised a job interview at his house on the outskirts of Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. What happened next horrified the nation. Akpan raped and murdered her, burying her body in a shallow grave. Though not a dating app, connection in the romantic sense, the case underscored the same lethal pattern strangers exploiting online trust. When police paraded Akpan, he admitted everything on camera, showing no remorse. He said he'd done it before. In 2022, he was convicted and sentenced to death. For millions of Nigerians, Ini Umoran's story became a digital age warning. The screen can kill. Unlike the old scams where perpetrators targeted foreigners, the new predators turned inward. Their victims were fellow Nigerians. In Abuja, police uncovered a syndicate that used Facebook dating and Tinder to set up dates that were actually kidnappings. In one 2023 case, a 31-year-old civil servant was kidnapped after being lured by a woman who claimed to be a nurse. Investigators later discovered that the woman's profile photo belonged to an influencer in Ghana. Once the victim arrived at the supposed meeting spot, he was seized by 3 men, taken to a hideout in Kuje, and held for ransom. They forced him to call his family, demanding $5 million. The police rescued him 3 days later after tracking the suspect's phones. The operation was one of many. Officers in the Federal Capital Territory confirmed that romance lures had become a preferred tactic for mid-level kidnapping rings. It required no weapons at first, just a profile, a promise, and the victim's loneliness. Throughout 2022 and 2023, Nigerian media carried a series of chilling headlines. Lady found dead in Benin hotel after Tinder date. Young man killed after meeting lover online. One case in Benin City involved 24-year-old Blessing Ochi, a university student who met a man on Tinder. They agreed to meet at a hotel. Hours later, hotel staff discovered her lifeless body. Her phone and ATM card were missing. CCTV footage showed a man leaving the premises minutes before the discovery. Within weeks, another similar case emerged in Asaba Delta State. A businessman strangled in his hotel room after inviting a woman he'd met on Facebook. His bank account was drained via mobile transfers. Police traced the withdrawals to a cyber fraud gang in Onitsha that admitted to running multiple female profiles. Their leader told investigators, "We don't force anyone, they come willingly." These recurring killings forced Nigerian authorities to publicly acknowledge what activists had been warning about. Online dating had become one of the easiest ways to commit violent crime. In response to rising media scrutiny, global platforms like Tinder and Badoo introduced safety prompts for Nigerian users. Warnings appeared before meetings. Meet in public. Tell a friend where you're going. Yet the criminals adapted faster. They migrated to WhatsApp once trust was built, erasing chats, changing numbers, and sometimes deleting their original dating profiles entirely. The Nigeria Police Force Cybercrime Unit reported that between 2020 and 2024, at least 117 cases of murder, kidnapping, or aggravated robbery were linked to online dating contact. The real number, they admit, is likely far higher. Many victims never report out of shame. In Imo State, the story of a 22-year-old student named Happiness Okechukwu stunned the region. She had met a man calling himself Chima on Facebook dating. He sent her flowers, long messages, and made grand promises of marriage. When he invited her to meet his mother in a nearby village, she told her roommate she would return by evening. She never did. 2 days later, her body was found in a forested area near Owerri. Her phone and bag were gone. Police arrested Chima, whose real name was Ifeanyi Ude, a known fraudster who confessed that he had planned to rob her, but panicked and strangled her when she resisted. The confession revealed the psychological manipulation typical of these predators. He had researched her posts for weeks, mirroring her interests, quoting her favorite Bible verses, even pretending to be a family-oriented Christian. To Happiness, he seemed genuine. To him, she was prey. Another layer of the crisis is often ignored: women recruited as accomplices. In a 2022 case in Kwara State, a gang led by a 27-year-old woman named Mariam Bello ran an operation using dating apps to lure male victims. She would invite them to her apartment, where her male accomplices lay in wait. Victims were beaten and forced to reveal their ATM pins. The group admitted to at least 9 attacks before being caught. Mariam told investigators she started after being heartbroken and broke. It's a grim reflection of how desperation and the desire for survival have blurred moral lines. The same digital tools that exploit emotion are now weaponized by those who once sought love themselves. Across Nigeria, these cases have changed how people approach digital intimacy. In Lagos, many now share live locations before dates. In Port Harcourt, hotels demand stricter ID verification. Parents warn their adult children, if you must meet someone, go in daylight. The fear isn't abstract, it's woven into daily life. Twitter threads trend with hashtags like "Stay Safe Online" and "Dating App Killers," where users recount near misses. A young woman in Abuja posted, "He said he was an engineer. I Googled his name, it didn't exist. That's when I blocked him. Maybe that saved my life." Criminologists studying Nigeria's digital landscape describe the phenomenon as relationship-based crime. Unlike classic armed robbery, these attacks exploit trust rather than force. The predator doesn't need to break into your home, he just needs to be invited in through your chat window. Police training manuals now include modules on cyber-enabled relationship fraud. Officers are taught how to retrieve deleted chats, trace mobile money transactions, and liaise with app companies. Yet, as one officer admitted, for every one we catch, 10 new ones appear. All they need is a phone and a plan. While high-profile convictions like Uduak Akpan's offered symbolic justice, many families still wait. In rural areas, investigations stall for lack of digital expertise. Evidence disappears when suspects reset phones or bribe officers. The victims' families form support groups, sharing resources to pressure authorities. One mother in Asaba keeps her daughter's chat screenshots printed in a folder, visiting the police station every month. "I don't want her story to end in a file," she says quietly. Each of these tragedies stems from a single, ordinary decision to believe that the person behind the screen is who they claim to be. In a country where loneliness, migration, and financial struggle make connections scarce, that belief is powerful. Predators know it. They exploit it. What's unfolding across Nigeria isn't merely crime, it's the collapse of digital innocence. Dating apps promised love, but for too many, they've delivered loss. Today, as the sun sets over Lagos Lagoon or the streets of Abuja glow with headlights, millions still open their phones and swipe. Hope remains. But woven into that hope is hesitation, a pause before trusting, a glance at headlines, a silent prayer. Because everyone now knows, in the age of digital love, the same app that can bring you happiness can also bring you harm. Case 8, Uganda's Facebook lovers, death and deception in Kampala. In recent years, police across the country have uncovered a disturbing pattern: men and women lured through Facebook, Tinder, and Instagram, only to be robbed, kidnapped, or murdered. These aren't isolated tragedies. They form part of a growing web of online romance crimes that reveal how predators exploit digital trust, often leaving behind shattered families and unanswered questions. Uganda's relationship with social media is deep. As of 2023, more than 6 million Ugandans were active on Facebook, one of the highest rates in East Africa. Dating apps soon followed, promising love, adventure, and opportunity in a culture that had long kept romance private. But by 2019, police began recording cases that told a different story. One of the earliest was that of Joan Namagembe, a 22-year-old student from Makerere University. She had met a man named Brian on Facebook, charming, articulate, and successful, or so he claimed. After weeks of chatting, he invited her to meet at a guest house in Bunga, a suburb south of Kampala. The next morning, hotel staff found her body. She had been strangled. Her phone and purse were gone. Police later discovered Brian was a false identity. The suspect was a 27-year-old man who had used at least 6 fake Facebook profiles to lure women across Kampala and Entebbe. He was eventually caught after trying to sell her phone at a market. That case, widely covered in Ugandan media, marked a grim turning point. It wasn't just theft, it was targeted digital predation. 2 years later, another case horrified the nation. In mid-2021, Entebbe police arrested a man accused of killing multiple women he met through Facebook. His name was Waswa Derek, a quiet, soft-spoken 32-year-old who claimed to be a businessman. Police found him after discovering the decomposing body of a woman in a rented room in Katabi town. Further investigation linked him to at least 2 more deaths, all victims he met online. Waswa's method was chillingly systematic. He used Facebook to find women looking for relationships, gain their trust through emotional manipulation, and invited them to his residence. Once there, he drugged, assaulted, and killed them. Officers described him as methodical, emotionless, and deeply deceptive. During interrogation, Waswa confessed he targeted women who looked desperate, those posting about heartbreak or money struggles. They were easy to convince, he said. His confession exposed a dark evolution in Ugandan crime: predators who study their victims' emotional patterns before striking. In early 2022, another case dominated Ugandan headlines: the killing of a UPDF officer, Private Richard Okello, by a woman he met on Facebook. Okello had fallen in love with a woman calling herself Dora. After chatting for weeks, he arranged to meet her at a lodge in Buea. What he didn't know was that Dora worked with 2 male accomplices. When Okello arrived, the gang robbed him, beat him, and left him for dead. His military ID was stolen, later found in one suspect's possession. The case outraged the army, prompting a joint investigation between the UPDF and Uganda police force. Within days, the suspects were arrested in Jinja, still using Okello's phone. For the public, the story symbolized how even trained officers could fall victim to digital deception, proof that charm can be more lethal than a weapon. Between 2020 and 2023, several cases involving female university students surfaced, sparking debates on campus safety. In 2022, Susan Nanfuka, a third-year student at Kiambogo University, met a man on Instagram who claimed to be a DJ. Their online chemistry was instant shared playlists, late-night calls, and dreams of partnership. One weekend, she traveled to meet him in Mukono. She never returned. Her body was found 2 days later near a sugarcane plantation. Police tracked her last WhatsApp messages, leading to the arrest of a suspect named Moses Subuga, who confessed to strangling her after she discovered his real identity. He wasn't a DJ, but an unemployed youth living in a friend's rented room. Nsubuga told investigators he had no intention to kill her. He just panicked when she screamed. It was a familiar refrain heard across Uganda's dating crime files: men pretending to be something they weren't, then resorting to violence when lies collapsed. These campus girl murders became a national conversation. Talk shows warned students to avoid private meetings. Churches preached sermons on digital caution. But despite the warnings, the killings continued. While some cases ended in murder, others evolved into organized crime. In 2023, the Kampala Metropolitan Police cracked a gang using Facebook to kidnap men. Their tactic was brutally effective. Female members would create attractive profiles, promise a date, then invite the victims to remote lodges. Once the men arrived, armed accomplices would burst in, beat them, and force ransom calls to families. One victim, a businessman from Matinda, described how he was blindfolded, stripped, and recorded on camera while being beaten, a tactic used to pressure relatives into paying $3 million. He was released only after a mobile money transfer confirmed payment. According to CID spokesperson Charles Twine, this gang alone extorted more than UGX $300 million in less than a year. He called it a hybrid crime cyber fraud mixed with physical violence. In 2022, a quieter but equally heartbreaking story unfolded in Mityana district. 20-year-old Mercy Nabiri, daughter of a local pastor, had met a man named Andrew on Facebook. He claimed to work for an NGO and often quoted Bible verses in their chats. Her family initially approved of him, impressed by his apparent faith. One Sunday, Mercy told her parents she was meeting Andrew to discuss a charity project. She never came home. Her body was found days later in a shallow grave near a riverbank. Police traced her last phone signal to the suspect's village. When arrested, Andrew, whose real name was Joseph Wamala, confessed to killing her after she refused to give him money. The brutality shocked the church community. For many Ugandans, it was a reminder that predators now wore the faces of believers, professionals, and philanthropists, and that faith alone was no shield against deceit. As reports multiplied, Ugandan authorities launched digital safety campaigns under the Ministry of ICT and the Uganda Police Cybercrimes Division. Posters and radio adverts urged people to verify before you trust. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga publicly stated that over 70% of dating-related crimes began on Facebook, a statistic that stunned the public. He called for stricter verification measures for social platforms operating in Uganda. At the same time, NGOs like Safe Love Online Uganda began offering workshops on digital dating safety, teaching young people how to spot fake profiles, demand video calls before meeting, and report threats early. Universities introduced campus seminars after multiple students were killed or went missing following online dates. The message was clear: technology wasn't the enemy, ignorance was. Sociologists studying this trend argue that Uganda's online romance crisis reflects deeper social pressures, unemployment, migration, and emotional isolation. For many, Facebook and WhatsApp became escape routes from daily struggle. The predators simply capitalized on that need for connection. Victims often shared similar profiles: young, searching for opportunity, emotionally open. Offenders, meanwhile, were mostly men aged 20 to 35, tech-savvy but jobless, driven by greed, envy, or misguided masculinity. Dr. Grace Tumwine, a criminologist at Makerere University, summed it up best. In our digital culture, people fall in love with the idea of who someone is online, not who they truly are. That illusion can kill. For every case that reaches court, dozens remain unresolved. Families still post missing person alerts on Facebook, the same platform where the danger began. One mother, holding her daughter's photo outside Kampala's central police station, said softly, "She went to meet love. She met death instead." These words haunt Uganda's online generation. Every time someone clicks accept friend request, there's a moment of hesitation, a question of safety versus hope. The tragedy of Uganda's online dating killings lies in their ordinariness. None of the victims expected danger, they expected connection. Yet, time and again, the screen became a weapon and affection became bait. In Kampala's nightclubs and university dorms, stories circulate, whispered reminders that behind every profile could hide a predator. Some users have deleted their accounts altogether. Others stay, but with new rules: public meetings only, no blind trust, no overnight plans. Still, the cycle continues. Because in a country where loneliness meets connectivity, love remains both a risk and a refuge. As the sun sets over Lake Victoria, Kampala glows with thousands of tiny screens lighting up across the city, messages, notifications, emojis of affection. The technology that has taken lives also connects millions, still believing in love. Yet for every hopeful heart, there's a shadow watching, a reminder that behind the next message could lie danger. Uganda's story is a warning, not just for Africa, but for the entire digital world. In the search for love, never surrender your sense of caution, because trust, once given online, may be the last thing you ever give. Case 9. The Tinder Trap in South Africa. Murder in the City of Gold. It started quietly around 2016, when police began noticing a series of similar reports. Men, often well-off professionals, would meet women on Tinder or Badoo, arrange dates, and then vanish or wake up drugged, robbed, and stripped of everything, sometimes even their lives. The criminals behind these schemes were clever. They understood the psychology of modern loneliness. They targeted men who lived alone, flaunted wealth online, or seemed emotionally open. In some cases, the encounters turned deadly. Detectives from the Johannesburg Organized Crime Unit called it romance robbery. But soon, the line between robbery and murder blurred, and the media began using a different phrase: the Tinder Trap. While many of the early victims were men, one of the first women to die in a dating app killing was Duduzile Ngwenya, a 27-year-old Johannesburg model and entrepreneur. In early 2018, Dudu met a man through Tinder who called himself Thabo from Midrand. He seemed charming and affluent, a car dealer with business interests across Gauteng. After chatting for weeks, she agreed to meet him at a hotel near Sandton. She never made it home. Her body was discovered the next morning near an off-ramp on the N1 highway, her jewelry missing. CCTV footage showed her leaving the hotel with a man whose real name investigators later found was Sabelo Dlamini, already wanted for 2 other similar attacks. He had used multiple Tinder profiles to lure victims. Dlamini fled to Durban, but was caught months later after trying to use one of Dudu's bank cards. In court, he showed no emotion. The presiding judge called the crime a chilling abuse of digital trust. Dudu's death became one of the earliest public warnings that dating apps in South Africa were being weaponized not for romance, but for predation. By 2019, Johannesburg's police were facing an epidemic. Dozens of cases emerged where men were lured by fake Tinder profiles, invited to private locations, and ambushed by armed gangs. The operation was simple but devastatingly effective. A woman, often young and attractive, would invite the victim to her home or a rented Airbnb. Once he arrived, armed men would burst in, assault him, and rob him of cash, phones, and bank cards. Some were held hostage until money was withdrawn. In one case, a 32-year-old engineer named Shane Moyo was found murdered in his car near Alexandra Township. He had been beaten and strangled after meeting a woman he'd matched with on Tinder. Police arrested 4 suspects, including 2 women, all part of an organized syndicate. A detective involved in the case told reporters, "These gangs aren't random. They study their targets, build fake profiles using stolen photos, and lure victims with charm. Once the victim arrives, it's over." The Johannesburg police later confirmed that over 150 men had reported Tinder-related robberies and assaults by mid-2021, but they suspected the real number was far higher, as many victims refused to come forward out of embarrassment. In late 2021, a chilling case emerged that exposed just how sophisticated these dating gangs had become. A 38-year-old businessman from Sandton met a woman on Tinder who claimed to be a model. She invited him to visit her apartment in Centurion. When he arrived, he was ambushed by 4 men, tied up and blindfolded. The kidnappers forced him to call his family and demand a ransom of R500,000. For 3 days, he was held captive in a flat in Tembisa while the gang negotiated payment. The police eventually traced the ransom phone number through mobile triangulation and stormed the hideout, rescuing the man alive. The leader of the gang, a 28-year-old man named Katlego M., was later linked to at least 14 Tinder-related robberies. In court, prosecutors revealed that Katlego and his accomplices used a network of fake female profiles to lure men, switching SIM cards after every attack. This case finally pushed the South African Police Service, SAPS, to issue a national alert warning citizens about the increasing use of dating apps by violent criminal syndicates. In 2022, a case from the Western Cape once again proved that digital danger knew no boundaries. Dr. Tariq Khan, a respected 37-year-old general practitioner in Cape Town, had matched with a woman named Sile on Tinder. She seemed intelligent, funny, and genuine. They planned to meet at her apartment in Observatory. Dr. Khan was never seen alive again. His body was later discovered in his burned-out car near Khayelitsha. Police traced his phone records and discovered his last messages to Sile were sent from the app. The suspect, later arrested, was a man posing as Sile, who had catfished multiple victims. He confessed that Khan had resisted during a robbery attempt, leading to a struggle. The crime shocked the medical community and reignited national debate about online dating safety. For the first time, Tinder publicly issued a statement in South Africa urging users to exercise vigilance and report suspicious profiles. As the Tinder killings gained notoriety, a related crime wave spread: social media extortion. In Johannesburg and Pretoria, men reported being lured not to physical meetings, but to private video chats. During the call, the woman would convince the man to undress or perform sexual acts, all secretly recorded. Moments later, the victim would receive threats: "Send money, or we release the video to your family." Police cybercrime units linked many of these extortion schemes to the same groups behind the Tinder robberies. They called them multi-platform predators, using Tinder, Instagram, and Telegram to operate seamlessly between romance, blackmail, and violence. A cybercrime analyst told the Citizen newspaper, "What makes it so dangerous is that these criminals don't see it as murder or robbery, they see it as business." Not everyone caught in the Tinder trap died. Some lived to tell their stories, but barely. In 2023, a 29-year-old financial consultant named Samantha, surname withheld, met a man on Tinder who claimed to be a property investor. They went for drinks in Melrose Arch. He was polite and attentive until she suddenly felt dizzy. She woke up hours later in a hospital. Her drink had been spiked, her bag and car were gone. Police later found her car abandoned in Soweto. The man was never caught. Another survivor, Thabo M., recounted how he met a woman online who invited him to her apartment in Midrand. Moments after he entered, 2 armed men emerged from a back room. They beat him, emptied his bank accounts, and left him bleeding on the floor. "They knew everything," he said later. "Even the PIN I used for my second card. I think she watched me type it earlier." These survivors became the faces of a growing public campaign demanding safer digital spaces and stronger law enforcement response. In 2023, SAPES established a dedicated cyber and digital crime unit in Gauteng to investigate dating-related crimes. Working with Interpol, the team identified several cross-border syndicates operating between South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. Dozens of arrests followed, but so did the murders. As one officer told ENCA News, "For every one we catch, 3 more start. The profits are too easy." The criminals had adapted. Instead of using hotels or Airbnbs, they moved their operations to abandoned buildings, rented flats under fake names, and even ride-hailing vehicles, where victims were attacked mid-trip. Despite the arrests, the violence persisted, fueled by unemployment, greed, and digital anonymity. One of the most disturbing aspects of the Tinder trap is how ordinary it feels. The criminals don't hide behind masks. They wear perfume, use emojis, and ask about your day. Their power lies in emotional manipulation, in turning affection into a weapon. For South Africans already struggling with record loneliness and economic stress, the promise of intimacy became irresistible. Experts warn that dating apps have become a new hunting ground, one that requires as much caution as walking through the city at midnight. The Tinder killings changed South Africa's dating culture. Nightclubs began displaying warnings about drink spiking. Universities hosted workshops on digital safety. The Department of Communications even proposed a National Awareness Week for online relationship safety. For many, trust has become transactional. Before meeting, users now demand video calls, ID proofs, and location sharing. Others avoid the apps altogether, choosing to meet people the old-fashioned way. Still, every few weeks, headlines resurface. Man found dead after Tinder date in Centurion. Johannesburg woman missing after meeting online lover. The pattern remains. The Tinder trap isn't just a South African crime wave. It's a mirror reflecting the dangers of a digital age that prizes convenience over caution. Every match carries a promise and a risk. Every message could lead to love or death. For the families left behind, justice brings little comfort. Dudu Ngwenya's mother once told reporters, "She wanted love. She found a killer. How do we ever trust again?" Her words echo across the city through the glowing windows of Santon apartments, the quiet streets of Soweto, and the crowded taxis of Hillbrow, a warning whispered in every swipe and every match. Because in the City of Gold, even love can cost your life. Case 10. The WhatsApp Killers of Ghana, when love became a trap. In Accra, Ghana's fast-growing capital, love has moved online. From the glittering streets of East Legon to the crowded alleys of Nima, WhatsApp has become the country's unofficial dating platform. But behind the stickers, voice notes, and heart emojis lies a dark digital underworld, one that police have come to call the WhatsApp killings. It began with a single disappearance. In December 2018, Priscilla Koranchi, a 21-year-old nursing trainee, vanished after telling her roommate she was meeting a man she'd been chatting with on WhatsApp. He had promised her a birthday gift and a ride through town. She never returned. When her body was later found buried behind an unfinished building in Nkroful, police uncovered a trail of horror. Her killer, Samuel Udoetuk Wills, was a Nigerian national who had used WhatsApp to lure her and several other women. Investigators found multiple SIM cards, false IDs, and phones belonging to missing victims. The media dubbed him the Takoradi Kidnapper, but what made his crimes especially chilling was how ordinary they looked from the outside. A friendly message, a promise, a meeting, then silence. By 2019, Ghanaian authorities were dealing with a wave of similar crimes women lured via Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, only to be robbed, kidnapped, or worse. Unlike older scams like Sakawa, internet fraud, these crimes weren't just about money, they were about control, humiliation, and sometimes ritual killing. In most cases, the perpetrators weren't strangers in distant countries, they were local men, blending charm with deceit. Cybercrime officers in Accra began calling them the WhatsApp killers, men who weaponized affection and trust. In July 2021, Lydia Mensah, a 24-year-old university graduate from Kumasi, met a man through WhatsApp after he replied to her Instagram story. He claimed to be a businessman from Tema named Richie. After a week of chatting, he invited her to visit him for a weekend getaway. Lydia agreed. Her family last heard from her when she texted, "I'm at Richie's place, all good." 2 days later, her phone went off. When police finally tracked her location using her SIM records, they found her car abandoned near Afienya. Her body was discovered a week later in a bushy area near Dodowa, strangled, with her phone and handbag missing. The man calling himself Richie was later identified as Richard Osei, a 31-year-old ex-convict. He confessed that he met Lydia on WhatsApp, lured her, and killed her when she resisted during a robbery. During interrogation, he said chillingly, "She didn't scream. She just kept asking why I was doing this." The brutality of the murder triggered nationwide protests demanding stronger laws on cyber dating crimes. Ghana's cybercrime unit soon discovered that these weren't isolated attacks. Behind the killings was a web of organized groups using dating platforms to identify, deceive, and exploit victims. Their operations followed a pattern: scouting. They created multiple fake profiles using stolen photos of attractive men or women. Bonding. They built trust through constant chatting and voice calls, often switching from Facebook or Instagram to WhatsApp for privacy. Luring. Once the victim was emotionally invested, they invited them to a meeting, often in secluded areas. Execution. Depending on the motive, victims were robbed, assaulted, or murdered. In some cases, victims were filmed and blackmailed. In others, their deaths were linked to money rituals, or Sakawa Plus, a fusion of digital fraud and traditional occult practices. A senior detective in the Ghana Police Service described the networks as a hybrid of romance scams and ritual syndicates, one operating behind the smiling mask of love. In 2021, another case sent shockwaves across Ghana, not just for its brutality, but for the ages of those involved. Two teenage boys, aged 16 and 18, murdered their 10-year-old friend, Ishmael Mensah Abdallah, in Kasoa after allegedly being promised riches by a spiritualist they found through WhatsApp. The teens told police they had been watching Sakawa ritual videos on social media and believed a human sacrifice could bring them wealth. The murder had no romantic motive, but it exposed the same digital corruption: how WhatsApp and social platforms had become tools of manipulation and death. The public began referring to such killers, young or old, as part of the WhatsApp generation gone wrong. Most of Ghana's dating-related killings start on Facebook or Instagram, but quickly shift to WhatsApp, where tracking is harder. The encrypted chats and ease of deleting messages give predators cover. Police cyber units complain that while they can monitor public posts, WhatsApp's encryption makes investigations nearly impossible without victim devices. This digital barrier has allowed dozens of killers and scammers to operate in plain sight. In a 2022 briefing, Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, admitted, "Our biggest challenge is not identifying suspects, it's gathering digital evidence that courts can use." One of Ghana's most high-profile WhatsApp-related killings was the 2022 murder of Albert Donkor, a 28-year-old tech entrepreneur from Koranza. Donkor had been chatting on WhatsApp with a woman who claimed to be a university student. One evening, he drove to meet her and never returned. Within hours, reports surfaced that he had been abducted by men later linked to rogue police officers. His death sparked national outrage, blurring the line between romantic trap and institutional corruption. The Nkaranza protests that followed turned violent, leaving several people injured. Donkor's case became a symbol of digital trust betrayed at every level, from personal to political. Not all WhatsApp love traps end in death. Some end in ransom or lifelong trauma. In mid-2023, a young banker in Accra was kidnapped after meeting a woman from WhatsApp. He was held for 2 days in a remote house near Kasoa until his family paid $80,000 for his release. The woman turned out to be part of a kidnapping syndicate run by a prison inmate coordinating crimes via smuggled phones. Police traced the gang's communication network through WhatsApp metadata, revealing over 25 victims across the country, including students, businessmen, and church members. Among the few who escaped the WhatsApp killers is Nana Ama, a 26-year-old fashion designer from Accra. She met a man who claimed to be a photographer on Instagram. They moved their chats to WhatsApp. After a week, he invited her for a photo shoot. When I got there, she recalled, the location was strange, no studio, just a small house. My instincts told me to leave. As she turned back, 2 men came out of the house. She screamed and ran into the street, where bystanders helped her. Police later raided the building and discovered drugged drinks, SIM cards, and bloodstains. Another survivor, Kofi, shared how he was lured by a woman on WhatsApp to a fake party in Tema. Upon arrival, he was attacked and robbed of his car. He told reporters, "I thought she liked me, but they were watching my posts, they knew what car I drove and how much I earned." Behind every WhatsApp killing is a trail of grief. In Ghana's tight-knit culture, where families often live together, the shame and sorrow of such deaths are immense. Many families refuse to speak publicly, fearing gossip or spiritual stigma. Churches have started addressing the crisis from their pulpits. Pastors warn congregants about digital deception, while youth groups hold forums titled Love Online, Death Offline. Yet despite awareness campaigns, the lure of fast affection continues. Young Ghanaians, especially women, remain vulnerable to predators promising love, gifts, or social status. Ghanaian media has played a double-edged role. On one hand, outlets like Joy News and City FM have exposed dozens of online romance crimes, pushing police to act. On the other hand, tabloid-style headlines, "Beautiful girl killed by her WhatsApp lover," have turned tragedy into spectacle, feeding fear rather than understanding. Cybercrime researchers warn that sensational coverage often distracts from deeper issues: poor digital education, slow police response, and social isolation. In 2023, Ghana launched a National Cybersecurity Authority (NC) campaign focused on safe digital dating. Working with MTN, Vodafone, and Airtel Tigo, the initiative tracks suspicious WhatsApp numbers linked to criminal cases and shares data with law enforcement. Over 60 arrests have since been made, including members of a gang operating in Tema and Cape Coast that posed as female university students. Still, progress is slow. The head of the NCA admitted that many criminals operate from unregistered SIM cards and disposable phones, making tracing nearly impossible. The WhatsApp killers have evolved beyond physical meetings. Some now run elaborate romance extortion rings, where victims are seduced into sending private photos or videos, then blackmailed. Others impersonate foreign lovers, promising visas or business deals, demanding processing fees. These scams blur the line between emotional exploitation and violent crime. In every case, WhatsApp is the weapon familiar, free, and invisible. At a 2024 memorial in Kumasi, families of victims gathered to light candles for loved ones lost to online predators. Among them was Lydia's mother, who said softly, "She met him through WhatsApp. I used to think love was found in people. Now I see it can hide monsters." Another parent said, "Our daughters are dying through phones, but who can tell them not to love?" The event ended with a plea to the government for digital literacy programs in schools, not just to prevent scams, but to teach emotional awareness in the digital age. Criminal psychologists studying Ghana's cases note that most perpetrators share common traits: narcissism and control. They enjoy dominating victims emotionally before attacking. Economic desperation. Many are unemployed or ex-convicts seeking quick wealth. Moral detachment. They see victims as opportunities, not people. Dr. Cecilia Adamako, a clinical psychologist at the University of Ghana, explains, they exploit loneliness. Many victims aren't naive, they're simply human, craving connection. Today, Ghana's WhatsApp killings serve as a warning not only to West Africa, but to the entire digital world. As messaging apps replace real-world trust, criminals have learned to code emotion into deception. The Ghana Police Service continues to issue safety guidelines. Never meet someone alone without verifying identity. Always share live location with friends or family. Avoid sharing personal or financial information. Report suspicious profiles immediately. But for many, these warnings come too late. In one haunting message recovered from a victim's phone, a final WhatsApp text read, "I'm almost there. He seems nice." That was the last message Lydia Mensah ever sent. From Accra to Kumasi, every unread message, every missing blue tick carries a question. What happened? The WhatsApp killers of Ghana didn't just exploit technology, they exploited the human need for connection. And as new apps emerge and loneliness deepens, the cycle continues. Because in the digital age, the deadliest weapon isn't the knife or the gun, it's the message that says, "I love you."
This is Whispers in Africa. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the true crime documentary. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and turn on the notification bell icon, so you'll be notified when we upload a new video. You can also tell us what you think about this documentary in the comments section. I hope to see you in our next video. Bye.